This is Chris, Idaho painter here on Paint Live TV. Today I'm going to be pressure washing a large commercial building out here, a stucco building. So I'm going to give you some tips and tricks when it comes to pressure washing. If you've never run a pressure washer before, it's not too complicated, but there are some simple steps to know when it comes to pressure washing. So I came out here. First off, you need to find the water source. So I got a water source around the other side of the building. If you are pressure washing at home, you're a homeowner, your standard faucet, water's going to come right out of that faucet. If you're out on a commercial site, one thing that's important, a lot of commercial buildings have keys that actually run the water source. So make sure you have something like that to actually turn on the water, because there's not a standard faucet on it, and it's kind of like a safety measure so somebody can't just come in the middle of the night, steal water or just turn on the water, leave it on. So here's my two pressure washing guns. The two tips that I use a straight tip, also use a rotating tip. There are a lot of tip options out there, and like a yellow tip, white tip, black tip, and basically what they are is they throw out different size fan patterns, and I just don't feel like they wash and clean as well as a rotating tip. They also have a tendency to leave streaks on fences, concretes, and stuff like that. But any tip, any pressure washing tip could do severe damage if you don't know how to use them. A rotating tip, it's a ceramic tip that rotates inside, and it sends out a rotating pattern that actually agitates the surface really well and cleans it better than any of the other tip options out there. You can do a lot of damage with a tip like this. Very simple learning curve to just not getting too close. Start far back and then work your way to where you're seeing it comfortably rotating, flooding, and agitating the surface. Don't start off by getting like 1.5 feet from like a window screen or siding and then pull the trigger, because you could literally just tear the siding up. And I know that from experience. I've done it, employees have done it. Literally like 5 minutes, you'll figure it out. Just start back, work your way to the house. Same with a straight tip. You get too close, you literally could just blow a hole right in the siding or just blow a bunch of stucco like right off the building. But you can do the same thing with fan tips. With a fan tip, just doesn't have like with a straight tip, the distance, that the effective cleaning distance is really short. But I just don't like the fan tips, once again, because they have a tendency to stripe concrete really bad, not agitate or clean the surface very good. Two tip options, the Mighty M. This is the Mighty M rotating tip. It actually has a filter in it right here, so if you're using irrigation water, it's good to have a filter on your tip, because if you don't have a filter on your pressure washer, you could actually clog your tip. So there is a filter in there that every now and then needs to be checked and cleaned. So I got my wand ready to go, got my water source. Hoses. I typically, if I've got a large building, I'm going to have multiple hoses, so I don't have to move my pressure washer around all the time. I'll typically hook up maybe like 3 50-foot hoses, so I have 50 feet of hose hooked up to my pressure washer. I'm going to get that all hooked up. Now, you don't want to start your pressure washer first without having a water source attached to it, because that is what actually cools the pump. So you can ruin the pump on a pressure washer if there's no water source hooked up to it and it's running, or if you have a water source hooked up to it and you lay your gun down and it's running and you let it run for say like 5 minutes, you could actually burn up the pump. You got to every now and then pull the trigger to allow water to run through the pump to cool off that pump. And literally, I know from experience, because I burned up a pump before myself from letting it run without cooling it off for a period of time. We'll get down to the pump itself right here. This is the pressure washer right here. 3,200 PSI pressure washer, 2.4 gallons per minute. I used pressure washers as large as 5,000 PSI with 4 gallons a minute. Now, the size-wise, the larger pressure washer you can use, the faster you're gonna be able to pressure wash, because it's just gonna put more water up onto the building, onto the substrate. It's gonna be able to flood it faster. So here it is, the pressure washer. It's just a small one. I actually like this one, because if I'm pressure washing by myself, and I'm just using my truck, I can actually put this in the back of my truck without having a second person. My larger one that's 4,000 PSI, 4 gallons a minute, I can't lift it up all by myself. So this model just makes it convenient. I can actually grab it, lift it, put it in the truck. So it's gonna take gasoline. So this is my gas tank right here. If your pressure washer has been sitting for a long period of time, say all winter long, the gasoline's probably not gonna be good. Wanna empty the gasoline out, put new fresh gasoline in the pressure washer. Got gasoline in it. There's a few components. We can see this is how I actually start the pressure washer. So this is my pull string that starts it. There's gonna be an on-off switch someplace on the pressure washer. I located my on-off switch right here. You're just gonna turn it to the on position to get the thing to run. You've got some hookups right here. I've got a water source. My water is going to come in right here, and you'll know the water source because there's usually a screen right here that will do filtering. So the water's gonna come in, that screen can filter it, because if you're not hooked up to, say, city water, what we have out here a lot is we have canals, and people will have backyard faucets that's not actually city water, it's the canal water, and that canal water can actually send debris into your pressure washer and could damage your pressure washer. So make sure that screen is on there and available. Then it's gonna come in, and the out source right here, water's gonna be coming out right there. That's where I'm gonna hook up my pressure washer hose. That usually has a quick release fitting on it. Another thing I wanna locate is someplace there's going to be the ability to adjust the pressure on your pressure washer. I always run it at full pressure, but you never know. Maybe at some point in time, you're gonna wanna lower the pressure. Right here, it just has plus and a minus. It doesn't tell you what PSI, and I've never seen a pressure washer myself and use one that actually told me the PSI. But if I wanna turn it down, I'm just gonna rotate this minus. Eventually, if I turn it all the way, it's gonna just shut it completely off. And it'll go full pressure, is all of a sudden it'll just stop. Now that's full pressure, and it just has a plus and a minus, has the arrows pointing to plus and minus. Typically every pressure washer is gonna have a choke right here. So choke, I'm gonna turn it to choke. I'll always have to choke it initially when I first start it. Once it's been run and warmed up, I don't have to actually hit the choke. So I'm gonna flip it to the on position. It does have a speed right here, so this is the speed of the pressure washer. As soon as I purchased the pressure washer, I always just put it at full speed. Never ever touch that. I mean, there's never really a time I ever want to slow this thing down. I want to just be flooding the building with a lot of water, no matter what I'm pressure washing. So I literally never mess with that. There is a gas on-off valve right here, so this will turn the gas on or off. So typically, if you're traveling anywhere with a pressure washer or it's wintertime, it's good just to shut it to the off position, but literally, I actually never mess with it. As soon as I buy the pressure washer, turn the gas to on, and I never touch it anymore after that. So it has oil in it and hydraulic fluid. When you first purchase it, you're gonna put the oil in it. If it's not in there, the hydraulic fluid, you're gonna put them in there, and it's just good to go. You don't have to actually change that stuff for years, so you don't never need to mess with it. It's good to actually just unscrew it and actually check the level. If you haven't used your pressure washer for a long time, make sure there is oil in there, because you can really damage the pressure washer, if it doesn't have any oil. But now that's everything on the pressure washer. We've got our engine and we have our pump right here. Get ready to go. We have grommets right here that actually hold tips right here, but I keep my tips with me on my gun. And there you have, you got pneumatic wheels. If they're flat and you're using a big pressure washer, pump them up. I think mine are just solid rubber right here. So here we go, we're gonna get pressure washing. We're gonna show you what it looks like and how easy it is to get this thing up and running. All right, so I'm gonna begin hooking up my hoses. So I'm gonna hook up, this is my pressure washer hose. I'm gonna hook up my water hose, my water source. Don't wanna turn on anything till I get my hoses and my gun hooked up. Otherwise, water's just gonna be shooting everywhere. So if I hook up my water and if I don't hook up my pressure washer hose, water will just start shooting out right here. So I'm gonna hook that up. Got pressure washer hose hooked up. Got my gun hooked up. Now I'm ready to turn on the water. Make sure there's no kinks in your hose. If you get any kinks in your hose at any point in time, it's gonna stop flow to the pump and the pump will get hot, so you wanna keep it running. So now I'm gonna get ready to fire up my pressure washer. So the pump itself, it has to prime, so it has to get all the air out. It'll actually struggle for a while, like priming itself and getting the air out. To help it out, you actually just run your pressure washer until you can get all the air bubbles out, and you'll see eventually I'm gonna have a nice steady stream of water as it's purging their air out. So I got a nice steady stream of water. Now when I get ready to start my pressure washer, I'm also going to hold on to the trigger, squeeze the trigger, because there won't be any compression behind the engine and the pump if you actually pull the trigger down and pull at the same time. So I wanna make sure it's on. I wanna make sure my choke is on. Now I'm gonna start it. As soon as I start it, take the choke off. So I do want to give you a little pro tip too. So there is a black O-ring inside your quick releases that if you don't have a tip on here and you pull the trigger, the force could actually blow that O-ring out and you won't know until you go put on the tip, and then all of a sudden water starts shooting all over the place. So you should actually never pull the trigger until you have a tip, in there. Another thing is, this is a major safety issue with a pressure washer. You probably literally could put somebody in the hospital or possibly even kill somebody, with one of these small tips like this if the tip is not locked into place. If it's not locked into place and the quick release is a little bit loose, you pull 4,000 PSI, it's gonna shoot this thing out of your pressure washing gun like a bullet. And it's actually happened to me 2 times in my career where I didn't have it locked in place and I just pointed up in the air, shot it, and the thing was in a neighborhood and it was long gone. Thing is, don't ever point this at somebody and pull the trigger. You really shouldn't point at the air because it's gonna have to come down. You should point it at the ground when you pull the trigger initially when the pressure washer is running. Make sure you put it in, make sure it's locked into place, and then spray. So here we go.
That could be a good blooper.